Something about this whole Tyla and Rihanna situation just doesn't sit right with me. Man. Tyla finally cracked open the door on what's really been happening behind the scenes of her career, and what slipped out. It's the kind of thing that makes you sit up, put your phone down, and go, wait. She said, what about Rihanna? The girl basically hinted that the biggest shadow over her rise ain't the haters, ain't the labels. It's somebody we all didn't expect. And Rihanna? Brew. Rihanna really thought one cryptic Instagram quote was gonna shut this whole conversation down? Real quick before I dig into this. If you love when we expose the messy industry games nobody else talks about, smash that like button and subscribe right now. We out here connecting dots the big blogs are too scared to touch. Let's get into it. So here's the skeleton. Tyla, born Tyla Lorisethel, the South African pop girl who blew up off water, sat down for a string of interviews including her Cosmopolitan cover and her British Vogue March 2025 cover, where she straight up pushed back on the non-stop next Rihanna labeling. Then on top of that, a viral Met Gala clip showed her standing inches from looking frozen, and Tyla addressed it publicly on Instagram in late 2025 saying Rihanna seemed busy. Rihanna, the Bajan billionaire herself, hasn't said one direct word, but she dropped that no weapon formed negativity against me shall prosper post on IG, and the internet went feral. Really thought a Bible-flavored caption was the move? Now let's pull up the receipts, because the quotes tell a much different story. Alright, let me lay these quotes on the table one by one, and you'll tell me if I'm reaching or if Tyla's been low-key venting this whole time. Receipt number 1. In her Cosmopolitan cover story published May 2024, titled Tyla isn't interested in being the next Rihanna, actually. Yeah, that's the literal headline. Cosmo said it for her. Tyla told them, and I quote, Rihanna is Rihanna. It's a compliment, but at the same time, I'm my own artist. I'm Tyla. And I know as people get to know me and my music, they will see me as just Tyla. When I read that, I had to pause. Because on the surface, it sounds humble, respectful even. But listen, when somebody says it's a compliment and then immediately follows it with a but, that's not gratitude, fam. That's diplomacy. That's PR-trained patience wearing thin. Receipt number 2. Same Cosmo piece. She said, people want to tie me to something familiar to them. Cool. But at the end of the day, we're doing something no one's done before, and it can't really be compared to anyone. Yo, cool. She said cool. That's the verbal equivalent of a side eye. And nobody's done what we're doing. That's a girl who's tired of being framed as a sequel to somebody else's movie. Receipt number 3. Going further back, in a now widely circulated interview clip from late 2023 where Tyla was asked what artist changed her life, she said Rihanna inspired her because, and I'm quoting, I do remember loving the story of Rihanna because she came from outside of America. It made me feel like my dream was achievable because it's not something that happens every day for us. See, this one's important. Because Tyla did look up to genuinely. So when fans act like Tyla's some industry plant biting Rihanna's blueprint on purpose, nah, the admiration was real. But admiration and competition can live in the same body, and that's where this gets messy. Receipt number 4. The Met Gala situation. After a clip went viral in late 2025 of Tyla standing awkwardly behind Rihanna on the carpet looking like she wanted to disappear, Tyla hopped on Instagram with raspy voice, just woke up, and said, per BuzzFeed's recap, that Rihanna seemed busy, and added something along the lines of everyone knows I love Brew. Seemed busy. That's the most loaded seemed busy in pop culture history. When somebody says their idol seemed busy while standing feet away from them, that's not a non-answer. That's the most polite red I've ever heard. Receipt number 5. Cardi B, backlash herself, jumped in on the Breakfast Club back in early 2025 defending Tyla from the wave of hate. She said, and I quote, every single time I scroll on my TikTok, there's a video of her and people are talking and it's like, go damn, what do you want her to do? When Cardi said this on Breakfast Club, I knew it was bigger than fan beef. Because Cardi don't speak on people's problems unless she's been there. She knows what it feels like to be eaten alive online while another woman gets praised for the same thing. That defense was loud. Receipt number 6. Rihanna's own cryptic post. Around the same window the Tyla comparisons were peaking, reposted on IG, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. No formed negativity against me shall prosper. I laugh in the face of those who think otherwise. Now, could have been talking about anything. Her businesses, her babies, her relationship, anything. But the timing? The timing made the internet do a triple take. And bro, Rihanna's been around long enough to know what posting that on that day was gonna do. She knew. Now that we got the quotes on the table, let's connect the dots that nobody else is connecting. That Cosmo quote, Dropped right as Tyla was about to start her first solo headlining tour in 2024, meaning Epic Records strategically positioned her to publicly distance from the Rihanna brand at the exact moment they needed her to look like her own franchise. That's not Tyla being random. That's a label move. Now check the cryptic repost. It landed in a window where Anna Wintour personally tapped Tyla for the 2026 Met Gala host committee, per News 24 and Soton Live in February 2025, slotting her into a Vogue-anointed circle that historically included Rhea herself. So Rhea's quote wasn't out of nowhere. That was after the fashion world publicly handed Tyla a passport into rooms Rihanna built. The interview circuit wasn't random either. Tyla's British Vogue March 2025 cover, her Cosmopolitan cover, the Vogue feature describing her riding through London in a Mercedes V-Class, those weren't normal press cycles. That was a coordinated, Anna Wintour-bless coronation. And Rihanna hasn't dropped an album since ANTI in January 2016. That's almost a decade of silence on the music end, while the next girl gets crowned in real time. Rihanna really gonna sit on a 9-year music vacuum and act surprised when the industry installs a successor? That's terrible strategic awareness, brew. The Met Gala awkward moment happened during the 2025 ceremony, and 48 hours after it went viral, suddenly Rihanna's no negativity post hit. The timing's too clean. That's not coincidence, that's a reaction. And let's talk relationships. Tyla's signed to Epic Records under Sony. Rihanna built her empire through Def Jam under Universal. Different houses. Which means there's no internal label pressure for them to coexist peacefully. Epic has every reason to push Tyla as a new lane, and Universal has every reason to protect Rhea's legacy. Any smart person could have predicted this collision years ago, but Rhea's camp clearly didn't see it coming. That's the move of somebody who got too comfortable. That whole, she said Rhea seemed busy Met Gala statement, Tyla recorded that the morning after, raspy voice, no makeup, looking shook. That's not a planned PR drop. That's damage control filmed in panic mode. And the fact that she had to film it at all means the internet had already made up its mind. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Now check this out. Nobody's talking about how Tyla worded that one line in her Cosmo answer. Zoom in on the word compliment. She didn't say it's an honor. Didn't say I'm grateful. She said compliment. A compliment is something small. Something you brush off. You compliment somebody's shoes. You don't compliment somebody saying you remind them of a billionaire icon. By choosing that specific, downgraded word, Tyla subtly shrunk the comparison. That's wordplay. That's a girl drawing a line in the sand while smiling. And Rhea really didn't catch that? That's embarrassing for somebody who's supposedly the GOAT of pop strategy. Now zoom into Rihanna's cryptic IG quote. The phrase she added on her own, I laugh in the face of those who think otherwise. That's the tell. The original scripture doesn't include that line. She added that. And when somebody volunteers the words, I laugh, bro, that's the verbal equivalent of an eye roll. People who are actually unbothered don't perform laughter on Instagram. They just keep moving. The fact that Rhea had to write I laugh means she's not laughing. She's irritated. Now flip to the Met Gala visual. In that viral clip, Tyla's body language is frozen, shoulders pulled in, eyes scanning, mouth tight. That's not I'm starstruck. That's I just got dead-eyed in front of cameras. A starstruck reaction looks excited. A snub reaction looks small. Tyla looked small in that clip. And the rest of the world saw it before she could caption it. If Rhea had half the strategist energy people credit her with, she would have turned around, given a 3-second hug, and killed the entire narrative right there. But she didn't. That tells you she either didn't see Tyla, which is hard to believe with cameras everywhere, or she saw her and chose to keep walking. Either way, the optics buried Tyla. And Rhea let it happen. Now look at the song catalog. Tyla's Water, released July 2023, opens with a slick, hypersexual hook about a man making her sweat. Rihanna's Pon de Replay, her 2005 debut, opened with Island Flavor and that same crossover energy targeting global radio. Same template. Same age range. Rhea was 17 dropping Pon de Replay. Tyla was 21 dropping Water. Both Caribbean or African island girls being marketed to American mainstream. That's not Tyla copying. That's labels recycling a proven blueprint and hoping nobody'd notice. And Tyla's choreographer, Liche Janik and creative director Tato? The visual identity they built, slow hair flip, wet hair aesthetic, soft sensuality, mirrors the same visual DNA Melissa Ford helped craft for Rhea in the late 2000s. You'll really think the resemblance is accidental? Nah, that's a calculated brand mirror. The scariest part? Tyla probably knows all of this. She's smart. Which means every "I'm my own artist" quote she drops is her quietly trying to peel her image of a strategy that was glued to her before she could even fight back. Now let's see how the media spun it. So here's where it gets fun. Look at how different outlets framed the same situation. Cosmopolitan framed it as Tyla's graceful pivot. Their entire headline was literally "Tyla isn't interested in being the next Rihanna, actually." They treated her quotes like polite manifesto energy. But remember those exact words she used? "That ain't a manifesto. That's a tired girl drawing boundaries." Cosmo softened it. Vogue, on the other hand, framed her like fashion royalty being prepared for the throne. Their feature treated her like the chosen one, the South African successor, without ever publicly acknowledging the elephant. Vogue's whole spin was "look at this glowing star." But read between the framing and Vogue is the same publication tied to Anna Wintour, who personally tapped her for the 2026 Met Gala committee per News 24. That's not neutral reporting. That's invested narrative building. BuzzFeed went a third direction. They framed the Met Gala moment as "Rihanna ignored Tyla," with a headline straight up saying Rihanna was widely accused of totally ignoring her. BuzzFeed leaned into the drama. They saw the same clip Cosmo and Vogue politely avoided and said, "Nah, this is shade." 3 outlets. 3 completely different framings. Same girl. Now some Rihanna fans want to jump in the comments, saying this is all clickbait. "Ri don't even know Tyla exists." Brew. Be serious. Rihanna's a businesswoman with Fenty Beauty, Savage X Fenty, and a music brand worth protecting. She tracks every rising girl in pop. Those are the same fans who swore Ri was dropping an album in 2018, 2020, 2022, and 2024. The receipts pulled together, the Cosmo statements, the Met Gala body language, the Vogue coronation timeline, don't match the "Ri doesn't care" spin at all. The media's trying to spin this for whichever side gets clicks, but the receipts don't lie. But here's what nobody is saying. Nah, hold up. The culture's reacting emotionally to this, picking Team Ri or Team Tyla, but nobody's asking the question that actually matters. This was never about Tyla versus Rihanna. This is about the industry engineering a controlled succession, and using both of them as chess pieces in a game neither one fully agreed to play. Here's what I think is really happening. The pop world has a Rihanna-shaped hole in it. 9 years with no album. Fenty Beauty's still printing money. But the music seat is empty. And labels hate empty seats. Empty seats mean empty playlist slots, empty Grammy ballots, empty global tour markets. So Epic Records didn't just sign Tyla, they identified the gap and engineered a girl to fill it. Soft glam island energy, light voice, crossover dance moves, fashion-forward visuals. The blueprint wasn't Tyla's idea. It was a corporate decision wearing her face. And Ri? She's a puppet in this too, except she doesn't even know it. The longer she stays silent on music, the more she validates the industry's choice to install somebody new. That cryptic Bible quote was Ria's first real public flinch in years. She felt the seat shifting underneath her, and instead of dropping the album that would shut it all down, she dropped a caption. Brew. The industry's been waiting for that exact flinch. They needed proof Ri was rattled to justify pushing Tyla harder. And Ri handed it to them in 12 words. Remember that Cosmo cover? It wasn't just press. It was a public ceremony of inheritance. When a magazine literally headlines, "You as not the next Rihanna," guess what they just did? They confirmed you're the next Rihanna by even raising the question. That's psychological warfare via headline. And Tyla's team let it run because clicks are clicks. But Tyla herself? She's not stupid. She knows that headline tied her to Ri forever. That's why every interview since has her trying to dig out of it. Remember those bars from Water we broke down earlier? That sensual island girl positioning ain't just a song. It's a marketing category the industry created in 2005 and never let die. Rihanna was the original product. Tyla's the 2024 model. And the consumer? US. The fans arguing in comment sections are doing free labor for $2 billion machines. The industry needs this rivalry. Tyla trending equals Tyla streams. Rihanna trending equals Fenty sales. Both names in the same headline equals double the ad revenue. So every blog, every Twitter account, every YouTube clip channel, including the ones swearing they are telling the truth, is feeding a system that profits off black women being pitted against each other. That's the playbook. It's been the playbook since Whitney versus Mariah, since Brandy versus Monica, since Nicki versus Cardi. And here we go again. This is checkers from the audience, chess from the boardroom. Tyla's not playing Ri. Ri is not playing Tyla. The labels are playing both of them, and the fans are the pawns. Anybody still convinced this is personal beef is missing the bigger picture. The scary part isn't that Ri might be jealous. The scary part is that being jealous is what the industry needs her to be. Drama equals dollars. And the worst part? Tyla represents the old model the culture should be ready to move past, not because she's whack, she's talented as hell, but because she got slotted into a formula instead of being allowed to build one. If we keep cheering for industry-installed successes instead of demanding originals, the culture stays stuck in a loop of recycled blueprints forever. This is bigger than two women. This is about who gets to control the global pop spotlight, and the answer is, neither of them. The label suits do. The Vogue editors do. The streaming algorithms do. And until fans stop arguing about who's really the queen, the real bosses keep getting richer off the confusion. And that's the truth they won't tell you on Complex, Billboard, or Rolling Stone. So watch the pattern carefully, because this story ain't done, it's just warming up. Here's path 1. Tyla's gonna keep dropping interviews where she carefully separates herself from Rihanna comparisons, but the harder she pushes, the louder the comparison's gonna get. That's the trap. When you publicly fight an association, you accidentally feed it. By the time the 2026 Met Gala hits, with Beyoncé, Nicole Kidman, Venus Williams, and Anna Wintour co-chairing per Vogue, every camera on the carpet is gonna be hunting for a Tyla-Rihanna interaction. If Ree shows up, the internet's gonna analyze every blink. If Ree doesn't show up, the internet's gonna call it a snub. Either way, Ree is gonna look defensive. She's about to lose a PR war she didn't even know she was fighting. Now flip to the other lane. Ree might actually drop the album. Mark my words. If our 9 finally hits in 2026, the entire narrative resets overnight. One Rihanna album would erase 18 months of Tyla momentum, because Rhea's catalog still moves units the rookie can't touch. But here's the catch. Rhea's been teasing our 9 for nearly a decade. If she drops it now, it'll look reactive. Like she only moved because Tyla pushed her into it. And Rhea's whole brand is I move on MY time. So she's stuck. Drop the album and look threatened. Don't drop it and look replaced. That's a checkmate position, and Rhea walked herself into it. Then there's the silent industry warpath. Watch the collabs. The next 12 months gonna tell us everything. If Tyla suddenly lands a Beyoncé feature, a SZA feature, or the nuclear option, a Bad Bunny crossover, that's the industry openly anointing her. If she gets blocked from those rooms, that means the old guard is quietly retaliating. And the silence around her not having a Drake feature, a Beyoncé cosign, or a Rihanna duet yet, that ain't an accident. Somebody's holding the gates closed. Bro is about to learn that going viral and being industry protected are two different things. The Cardi B factor is also gonna get bigger. Cardi already publicly defended Tyla on Breakfast Club. If the hate continues, expect Cardi to escalate. And once Cardi escalates, the body gang turns into Tyla's shield. That's a fan army Rhea's Navy don't want a war with. And once it becomes body versus Navy on Tyla's behalf, Rhea can't win that publicly without looking like a bully. The chess pieces are already moving and Rhea's camp is too quiet about it. The culture shift is the wild card. Afro beats and Amapiano are no longer regional sounds. They are dominant genres. Thames, Burna Boy, Wizkid, Asake, Rema, and Tyla represent a generational pivot that doesn't even need American gatekeepers anymore. That means even if Rhea's old industry circle tries to slow Tyla down, Tyla can build directly with the African market and still go global. Rhea can't block what she doesn't control. The world's moving on without permission, and the old guard hasn't accepted it yet. 5 years from now, people are gonna look back at this moment as when the global pop center of gravity quietly shifted away from American R&B and into African pop, and Rhea's silence during this exact window is gonna be the L people remember. The scary part? Everything feels quiet right now. No diss tracks. No interviews going scorched earth. No direct shots. But quiet ain't peace. Quiet is what happens before the explosion. Tyla's still building. Rhea's still strategizing. The labels are still scheming. And somewhere in the next 18 months, one of these moving pieces is gonna crack, and the rest of the dominoes are gonna fall fast. Whatever happens, one thing's clear. Rihanna already lost the moment she let one cryptic Bible verse be her only response to a girl who's actively standing in her shadow. So tell me straight up in the comments, is Rhea really jealous, or is the industry playing both of them like puppets while we argue for free? Drop your take below. Hit that like button if you ride with us breaking it down without the sugarcoating. And subscribe because something wild is coming next about another pop girl getting the same exact treatment, and you're not gonna believe who's pulling her strings. Stay locked in.